This conference will now be recorded.
Are there any visitors online or with you there?
No.
Okay. I guess Pete, or who wants to take the helm for the forestry program overview?
We can certainly do that. Maybe Scott, what you want to do is, did you guys see minutes in your packet? If you do not have those, that's okay. We had two versions out there. And so if you want to approve the minutes by taking a quick read, that would be fine. If not, we can do that the next time as well.
Oh, I see. There's two different packets.
Yes, sir. Unless you'd like to push it off, Mike, and we can always do it the next time.
Yeah, let's just push it off.
Okay. I'll make a note of that, and we'll put both minutes in there from June 15th and then tonight in the next packet. We're sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
What I'll do tonight, guys, is turn it over to Scott, and he'll really talk about the things that we've done on the tree board, or on the forestry program in relation to the tree board and what we're looking at doing, and give you a little bit of an idea of where we're going.
All right. So last time we spoke, we kind of just gave you some rough numbers, not rough numbers, actual figures of what was being done previously in previous years versus just tree removals, stump grinds, tree plantings, just kind of the upkeep of St. Peter's urban forest. And after kind of doing some more evaluating of all the trees getting planted and the trees getting removed and so on and so forth, the forester and myself kind of came up with a plan that's kind of more consistent with not just shoving a pile of trees out there, but managing the trees we already have and trying to put in a ratio. At least right now we're running 1-to-1. Goal would try to be 1-to-2. We looked at it in the sense of, if we're going to put hundreds of trees out there and not remove the trees that need to get removed, it really doesn't do us any good to keep planting trees. But as you can see from this year so far, which this probably won't change a whole lot. I mean, we'll probably maybe have a little bit more removals. I wouldn't expect, a noticeable amount, but it's just kind of consistent with each other in reference to what we're planting, what we're removing, and the stump grindings. It just gives, I believe it just gives the city a neater look to have a consistent plan like that. And there's nothing saying in the future when we get get more developed in a plan that we can't hammer out more trees. It's just the big thing we noticed was, let's say in a block, there were 50 trees planted. Well, of those 50, probably 20 of them were too close to each other. So we ended up removing them anyway. So it was kind of just a negative in a sense. So now we're just planning on spacing the trees out, giving them the proper space, giving them the proper area they need, where they can grow better, so on and so forth. So going forward, the goal would probably is to try to do the same for next year, probably around the 180 to get removed and 200 to 250 to get planted. As you guys may or may not know, we have a nursery out by the old airport. There is currently 44 trees back there we planted. And next year we plan to just recycle some of those, like bring them into the city somewhere, and then probably keep a third of them out there, and then buy more trees next year, probably another 50, 60 to get put out there, just so we can keep regenerating more trees without having to always keep purchasing trees, where we can have our own trees and just take them from wherever we want to put them. So we feel pretty good about that plan. So any questions on the removals and stuff of that nature?
One of the things that Scott was talking about in our environmental services budget is we do have money funding a tree spade. So some of the trees that Scott planted there will be moved either by our big spade that we have or a smaller one that we can use on a tool cat or a bobcat.
Yeah, we also actually, I forgot to mention, we purchased a stump grinder that has changed the life over here. It has just been a night and day difference on the efficiency of removing these stumps. Some may think it's a very easy job, but there's a lot of work to it actually. So if we can make it easier and use less resources, that seems to really be beneficial. So. Tree.
Little better balance is what I would say that we were trying to achieve since the June meeting, Scott.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah, it was just kind of, as you can see on the graph, we were just kind of, we focused a lot on plantings. Again, not to say plantings are bad. It's just we weren't really balanced out there. So I feel we're on the right track. We can always improve, but we're going forward. So we'll go from there.
Why don't you discuss the tree trimming and pruning that we're planning to do here?
Yep. So last year, or 19 into 20, we focused. Actually, this is what we trimmed. Was right up by like Scarrow and Union and what's that, 3rd and 4th. We did the trimming in that zone. And I don't know if you guys remember previously, we had a map out that showed you where all the other zones were and whatnot. And that we're not trying to get away from that plan. It's just we've spent a lot of time this summer down in 3rd, 4th, 5th south of Broadway, and we just noticed that really needs to get cleaned up. Again, not to take away from anywhere else, but that's also our seal coat route next year. So if we can get that all cleaned up, it just makes for when the trucks come in there and life a lot easier. And again, we've spent a lot of time down there with just residents calling and asking to get their trees trimmed in that area. There's just a lot of old trees. It's more so from what I obviously I don't live here, but from what I understand, that's where that tornado went through. And there's a lot of trees that are that 20-year-olds that are just starting to just kind of not fall apart. They just need to get trimmed. So that's kind of the plan with that. And then hopefully it's an aggressive plan. I'll tell you that. But the plan is to get that done probably, gosh, I'm hoping by January, February, God willing, the snow holds off. But and then we can go back and would hop right back into the plan of that would be zone 2 would be the next zone. We'd be going on the north side of Broadway. That's the intent. And the guys are pretty excited about it too. So maybe they're just playing me, but I'm not sure. Yeah, that's tree plant or pruning. On that list on the unfinished business list, it has tree plantings. I kind of touched base on tree plantings. That's the plan we're going to go with. And it says a tree inventory map. I don't know if you guys remember from June. We had a tree inventory map that we showed you guys. That was more or less just to kind of show you guys the methods that we use. I mean, we could have shown you tonight, but it's really hard to see and it's kind of hard to understand. And the extent of that map is built out of the information that we give Bolton and Mink or the engineer to create a map for us. I really don't have a whole lot of information on tree planting map, I guess.
Right. I think part of the discussion there, Scott, that we're talking about is so that the board knows that we keep an inventory on how and where all of our trees are planted so that we can look and see if there's areas that we can improve on. Our GIS guys, which is our forester, he looks at that information and can tell by looking in his office what kind of planting plan he wants to have for the upcoming year. And so he spent a lot of time doing that and evaluating that system for us. So it's an internal process control and he's using it very effectively.
Yeah, it actually shows the density of the trees in the areas. So that's its main purpose, just as Pete stated there. So next is the beloved EAV plan. So I don't know if you guys maybe seen Raul or the forester out and about this summer injecting trees. it was definitely a process. We learned quite a bit from this process of the do's and the don'ts, and how quickly and how slowly it actually takes to inject 35 trees. We've learned quite a bit, though. Actually, we had a bunch of professionals come in, or a couple of professionals from around actually down in Iowa, I think it was. So take that with a grain of salt. But they showed us just a couple of ways to speed the process up, and we're hopeful here this next spring to get a jump start on this EAB. But the plan that we presented last June was to inject 32 trees. Of those 32 trees, we did get all 32 injected. And we also got 3 park trees down in Jefferson ball fields that we injected. Outside of that, these were all boulevard trees. We didn't inject any besides those 3 park trees. Step 2 of that was to remove 17 large diameter trees, 20 inches or bigger, with a condition less than 4. We got 2 of those removed. That may sound very minuscule, but these are rather large trees. And on top of that, if you figure we removed 163 other trees. So there's a lot of trees coming down. It's just these bigger trees take a little bit more resources to achieve that. And that's the goal here this winter, is to attack these bigger trees, since streets is freed up, parks is freed up, everyone's freed up to kind of get on the tree train. And step 3, we were to remove 74 smaller trees, 2 inches, in between 2 and 20 inches, with a condition of 4 or less, and we got 25 of those trees. The goal going forward is that we will focus on these ash trees first here this winter. And then come December, we're going to rerun the model to know what trees we're going to go after next year for EAB. We do know that we're going to go after the tree sizes 15 to 20. And just from our tree inventory, we know that that's the majority of the ash trees in town. So there's going to be, the list is probably going to be rather large. So we've come up with a plan to go after that, and it'll work. We just got to implement it. So outside of that, I mean, the EAB in general, we feel pretty confident about it. I mean, it did just show up in Scott County and Sibley County. So it's getting closer. We're hoping everyone say a prayer that LeSueur County gets it first, and we're all good. So outside of that, we do get quite a few calls and questions about EAB. So I'm just curious, actually, if any of you guys receive calls or questions or have any or something. I'm just curious, because I'm actually quite interested that there's a lot of murmurs about it.
I've heard no questions myself.
Oh, good. No questions are good questions. So I guess without moving on from EAB, we'll move to environmental services. Kind of just the compost program that we got going on. As you can see, this drop site across from Public Works is probably the busiest place that I mean, honestly, I've ever seen in a town. It's just busy, busy, busy. With that, since June, we've hauled out over 3,000 yards of brush and over 2,200 yards of leaves and yard waste, which that equates to just over 700 truckloads. And if you've seen our trucks, that's a lot of stuff. And I mean, it's you guys utilize it good. I mean, it gets plenty of business over there. But with that business, it costs a lot of money to take care of that place. It's you guys, I'm sure you guys can do math, but it's rather expensive. So we have come up with a fee schedule change for that drop site, where the residents are going to get stickers to put in their windows, so we can try to combat with non-residents just openly dumping stuff in there. It's kind of a shame, because there's a lot of cities around here, and I live up in New Prague. There's a lot up in the metro that they had these nice facilities for drop sites, and they got closed because they got abused. And it was mostly due to non-residents coming in there and just dumping whatever they want. And the service is meant for the residents to, they pay for it through their utility bill. So the idea is to put the stickers in there so we know, kind of monitor who's coming in, who's going out. If there's cameras out there, so we can kind of see all that. At the same time, if say like a tree worker or tree company's in town, if they wanted to buy a sticker, they could to take the brush there. We can sell the stickers to non-residents, for obviously an upcharge if they wanted to bring the product over there. There's a variety of things that we can do to try to make the site more beneficial for the city, so we can do other things. It's just a step right now we're trying to get in process. Pete's worked extremely hard on trying to get this ironed out, so it'll work.
Scott touched on a couple different things. This summer, we had one of our seasonal helpers post up over there and just write license plates down and talk to people that came in. And roughly 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 4 people that came in there weren't residents of St. Peter. So our goal is that people that are paying an environmental services fee will get a sticker in their utility bill. They can put that in their vehicle. And so when you come into that facility, if you are dumping trees or grass or picking up dirt or debris or leaving debris, you better have a sticker in your window. And then we'll work with the contractors that work in town to, like Scott had mentioned, do an upcharge. A lot of people are willing to pay, but there's a lot of people that are willing to dump and not have to pay. And so we've got to get a little bit of control of some of the larger outstanding tickets there. We don't anticipate that it's going to raise a whole lot of money for us. We think maybe 12 to 15,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's not enough to pay for what we spent hauling that the customers that are paying a fee are paying for. So our goal would be to work with those that are willing to work with us, and then keep some of the people that aren't paying out, or they can volunteer to pay and join in with us.
So Pete, is that one sticker per household, or how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, 1 sticker per household. If there's a couple of cars within the family that they may haul down there with, they can get another sticker for a small fee.
Okay. Can you
Like
get some?
you guys came down there and you wanted 2 stickers, you're going to get 1. And then if you use 2 vehicles to come in and out, you could buy another sticker. But we're only going to sell those to the customers that should be there.
What are you anticipating the price of a sticker is going to be?
So probably $7.50, somewhere in that neighborhood. We
Is
haven't
there a
got
way
that
of
far. Go ahead, Eli.
I was just going to say, is there a way of having something that you don't have to stick, that can be moved from one vehicle to another? You just get one, but if you had 2 vehicles, you could take it out of one and stick it in the other. And
Yeah, and then, well, that lies the problem.
Yeah, I guess the disadvantage of that is that not you, Eli, but Joe Schmo can take his sticker. Pete can give me his sticker. And then and you'd be surprised at how many people come over here and say, oh yeah, so-and-so from the Johnsons over there told me that I can come over here. Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about it then. So I mean, again, this is just kind of something we're just going to have to try out and watch it succeed.
But we're open for advice if people see issues there related to that. And people that use it quite frequently, we're not worried about those people, to tell you the truth. We're worried about the cars that drive from a long ways away with huge amount of debris and large trees and seem to be dumping here. And we follow them and they end up south of Mankato or over by Waterville or wherever the case may be. So we've got to do something to recoup some of those costs.
What would the penalty be for dumping without a sticker?
Well, it's an illegal dumping. I can't remember in the ordinance. Scotty, do you remember what it was? Was it 25 or 55 bucks or something like that?
I think it was 55.
Yeah. It's by far beneficial to just become a member and go from that.
Yeah.
You know, paving that area was a really good idea.
Yeah, it seems to be beneficial. We really increased the usership with that.
I'll bet.
Last thing is that, well, are we done with the compost side? You guys have any more questions? No. Last is the downtown 2021 plan. We received numerous phone calls from numerous cities or metro areas, actually quite a few from the metro, complimenting on the downtown flowers and the color that was going on down there this summer. The plan going forward is we're going to continue to plan last year we planted just over 250 annuals and pre-annuals. And this year we're planning on having a gardener on staff to kind of more focus on the dues and the needs that we need down there, because it's quite daunting. I mean, you see how much was planted or what it looked like this year, and it's quite daunting to take care of all of that. On top of that, we had some requests for some different colors down there. Where I'm not going to tell you what we planted down there, but there'll be some spring color. We're pretty excited to see what all happens this spring. So outside of that, April can't come fast enough for me. I'm just so curious to see what it looks like. So
Couple of changes that Scott and I have worked out with in our environmental services budget is two things that you're going to notice, and hopefully it pays a dividend for the community of St. Peter in the long run. And that is, we're going to be investing with a gardener. That's going to be a part-time staff person that comes in and does what Scott's talking about. That is keeping the downtown looking like it does. We love it when they call and say, "What are you guys doing?" And Scott says, "Hey, we're just putting a little effort into it," because we have a lot of people that call and can't believe how the downtown looks. It really just attracts St. Peter. And then we're also looking at a tree assistant. It'll be similar in hours to what our gardener does. You're probably looking at a 900-hour person in the mid-salary ranges, maybe just a little better than what a summer seasonal would be, but somebody that we could get to keep coming back year after year in both of those positions, because we think that shows that St. Peter is investing in their downtown and in their overall park system. As you guys know, at Community Spirit Park, our gardener this year, Kelly, she did a great job out there with those medians and getting some color in there, and those are only going to get sharper and nicer. And we want to keep adding things like that, and we feel that that kind of staff really works well with where we're trying to take it, and we want to see those improvements. And that is all we had for the tree advisory board. Are there questions or concerns that we can try to answer?
Okay, hearing none, can we get a motion to adjourn the tree advisory board?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Now, can I get a transitioning over to the Parks Board meeting? Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay. We get a motion to approve the minutes from the October meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, I assume we have no more visitors on location, Scott, or anybody online?
No, sir.
Okay, so I assume Joey, you want to start with the unfinished business with the COVID-19 community center update?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This month we do have some new updates with how we're dealing with COVID-19 at the community center. With the state starting to dial some things back, the governor's executive order that came out last week, we are pretty much already in compliance with that. Some of the details that hit were really, it comes down to operating at 25% for some of our meeting rooms, and as we get requests for people to hold gatherings, we were pretty much in compliance with that already. But what we've decided to do is also look at our programming as a whole and our offerings as a whole, and start to dial some of the things back and look at ways that we can continue some things, but do them safely. The one thing we did make a decision on is open gym has been really popular with the kids for the last 3 months now, and we've been steadily seeing more and more interest. And it's getting to the point where, with the school district going distance learning and shutting down athletics, that we were gonna get even more traffic down there and a lot of non-mask wearing and things like that, where we've decided to pause that for now. Have not announced a day when we will continue open gym, so we're gonna kind of just continue to evaluate and let that go. Now, that doesn't mean the community center gym's closed. So associations have requests in and have submitted COVID plans, and some of them are deciding to pause their operations as well and wait a little bit. For one, Basketball Association today just let me know that they're gonna put the season on hold and try to evaluate in January now, with everything going on. And that kind of comes in conjunction with the school district not allowing any gym time for any associations or outside school groups either. So for other programs we're offering, we still have adult pickleball. The track is still open. Some of those that we're able to regulate a little more are still going to operate as long as we feel that things are done safely and our participants are participating safely. But really, that's the biggest changes for community center now. No changes with hours of operation or things like that. But any questions?
Okay, Pete, do you want to talk about the public works update in regards to COVID?
Yes, as you guys are aware, early onset of COVID back in March and April, Public Works was closed for a while. We are looking at going back to that model here probably shortly, just with the operations that we're experiencing. We have had a few quarantines within staff. We have had 6 employees return from quarantine, and we have had a couple of positives related to full-time staff here within the last couple of weeks. And so we're looking forward to getting those guys and gals back related to their health. Everything seems to be coming out okay. But it has put us in short order for making sure that things are operating right. As you guys are aware, we have utilities of all kinds that has not been jeopardized. We've had enough staff to cover that. But we've asked some people to do other things that they aren't really that great at, and they've been really up to the challenge. And so we appreciate their efforts in making things work. We will more than likely try to go through the holiday season here, following the governor's orders and working with Joey and Todd at City Hall in making sure that the citizens have their needs met. And so if there's questions or concerns, feel free to give us a call at Public Works if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Minnesota Square Park, the 21 improvement plan. It looks like
Sure.
we have a resolution we need to address.
We do, Mike. One of the things that we've done since Scott has came on board is we have looked at revamping how we do master planning. And so we were looking for a little more input from Joe on the coordination of how our parks operate. We are looking at how to identify needs within certain parks. The older master plan basically identified a lot of cost without a lot of resources. And we are really a changing organization. And from our point of view, it's going to take the three of us to put our heads together to try to make some of these improvements go because of the funding needs and the requirements that are out there. We are open to receiving grants. We are open to making applications for grants. But really the only way we get an idea of what the communities want is you guys bringing that input back to us, and or we hear it through our channels of operation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott. He's going to talk about Minnesota Square Plan. And Scott has kind of masterminded the operation of what we have here going forward. And he's going to lay this out for you. And then as we go forward past this council meeting, it would be our intent to have some of the parks laid out in front of you for review. And then the following month, they would come back for approval with your suggestions and corrections. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
So, as you see, this will be the third time we've shown you guys this, but this is just kind of the format of what we're looking at. Just kind of shows the character of the park, kind of what the city's, how the city looks at the park, this specific park, Minnesota Square. And then we laid out just developmental considerations for the park. There's just an array of different things that we can do at each park. Like Pete said, though, resources is always number one. The finances is hard to come by. You'd want everyone to donate money to a park, but that's impractical to focus on one park. Last park board meeting, I thought we had a great meeting, and we discussed the wants or the needs at an array of a lot of parks. You know, the city's plumb full of parks, and there's something could happen at every park. And so we're just trying to signal out what's at each park and go from there. But yeah, going forward, the goal for this specific park this summer or spring, hopefully, is to start work on that plaza and start the sidewalk and trail project. That's the intent of the project is, you know, even if we can start with just a quarter of the project, let me pull up that map. So if we could just even start with, you know, it's just something like this, just to kind of get you guys, get everyone an outline of where we're headed with the park. It would just kind of build like a little precursor, and hopefully we could hook a grant and we could get all of it done. But as of right now, the funding would allow for us to probably do just a little over 120 feet from College Avenue. But I don't know, outside of that, I feel it's a really good plan, and it's really going to draw the Minnesota Square to the downtown area. It's going to have that downtown feel to it, I believe. I have yet to see any events at Minnesota Square since I've been here due to COVID, but I was told that the park is just a hopping in the summer with all sorts of activities, and this would only add to that hop. So yeah.
In the master plan here that Scott has developed, as you can kind of see, we went to more of a checklist. So our overall number one goal is the plaza construction, having that common place for community. The number two priority is the sidewalk projects as we go forward. Now, usually our resources don't get us much past one or two, but in the development of the other areas along here, we've got several key factors that play a part in how we decide what gets done. So as we talk about parking lot and parking off of Elm Street and College, we also have street funds that we try to tie into that same type of development. And as you can see from Scott's picture, concept picture that he developed there. The goal would be along College Avenue is to add some diagonal parking there that would entice people to come to not only the Vets Memorial, but also be able to park and walk and use the plaza. We also have some physical activities that go on there, such as sand volleyball and lighting that we would like to do to encourage that. That program is really developed through the Park and Rec program in how people are using that. I think Sunday nights, if I'm not mistaken, Joe, is that their big night?
Yep, that's right.
And so what they do is they bring several teams in there and they play on what I would call the west end of that park. And there's always something going on in that area. Not to be forgotten are playground upgrades, splash pad, and angle parking, as we kind of mentioned. But looking at playground upgrades, I'm looking at two distinct playground areas. We'd like to move those over by the restroom. I think Scott covered that discussion last time in his discussion. And so what we can do is target some funding and dollar values in there and then work for grants on those as well. How about questions that you guys may have? And if you don't have any questions, if we've answered that, we do have a resolution for your consideration.
I got one question. I guess in regards to the plaza and doing it in chunks with the sidewalk, short of any grant money, how long is it going to take us at our current budgetary pace to get done what you see here?
That's a great question. What we're hoping, Mike, is that it's a 3 to 4 year process. We'd love to do it in one time, one pour, but we just don't have the funding. And as you guys are probably well aware, we usually don't borrow money to do parks improvements. We either have the cash and put it in, or it doesn't get done until we get that improvement. It's not to say we couldn't change how we do things. It's just that hasn't been very popular as far as tax dollars are concerned. And so our best route has been to solicit funds.
And you mentioned some grants earlier. Are we applying for those? Are they, and what is the dollar value if we become successful?
We are. We weren't awarded a grant last year that would allow us to basically double our money on that and get a really good chunk of that taken out. But now what we can do is show them how that process will work, a little better design concept. We've been in the funnel one time for opportunities, and we just keep coming back and keep trying to work to increase our application so it gets a little better each time, and try to make it so that we can get some of those grant funds.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the resolution that we see on the screen there? Okay, hearing none. So Pete, we just do a motion to approve the resolution. All right, can we get a motion to approve the resolution you see on your screen?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing none. The resolution carries, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay, Parks Improvement, the 2020 through 24 plan.
Sure. This is being brought back to you guys based on recommendations from the board to look at prioritization issues that we talked about here previous meeting. Wanted to get some feedback so you guys could see where we're at and where we're going. As you can see in 2021, Minnesota Square Park Plaza, which you guys just took a look at there, is our #1 priority, ADA sidewalk and restrooms. We've got great support from our council on a lot of the ADA improvements there. And so you'll see some of those take place. Then what you'll also notice is we set the priorities for 2022, and those are shade structures and passive picnic areas. And so what we're looking at is a prioritization right there that you have. We also have Community Spirit Park, Community Spirit Park restroom, I should say, that's budgeted right now at about 155,000. That's in conjunction with the school's improvement out there for about $200,000 on their end for a ticket booth, concession stand, bathroom in what I would call between the baseball field and the high school. The city's contribution would be down by the kids soccer program. So our goal there is to make sure we've got facilities for the little ones that are out there running. Of course, you're aware that we do put porta pots out there, but where we wanted to upgrade that, that's a couple of our structures. In the future, you'll see additional structures for Community Spirit Park out there as we grow, probably a few years down the road. And then you can see that we've identified several other areas in priority based on your recommendations going forward. And so what we really wanted to do is show you the working plan that we have and how Scott will try to implement a lot of those procedures going forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no new business to discuss tonight, and I have nothing for a chair report. So Joey, you want to talk about the rec department and your update there?
Yeah, so go ahead.
Can I jump in? I have a question about the last page here. I was wondering, it looks like in 2022, one of the designated parks that we're looking at is the Hallett's Nature Area. And I was just confused, like, what do we mean by picnic areas? What is the vision for that?
Sure. Our overall goal was to try to pick up a half an acre or to work with a developer of what we thought at that time was going to be an apartment complex on the south end of that facility. And so what we would do is we're going to need more land before that can be implemented because we just don't have enough room between the high water mark and the city's owned property. So that's really driven by the obtaining additional land in order to do that. So we've laid out a couple things in draft form, Emily, that show a picnic area with a little shade structure in that, what I would call the southwest corner of that near the fairgrounds property. And
Sure.
so again, that's not owned by us right now. We're still working with the owner of that property, and we've worked with the DNR on a stormwater basin in that area. So still working to make improvements. We just haven't seen the progress, I guess. COVID's been a unique weapon for a lot of different construction activities. Seems to have stagnated a lot of different things, including land development. But
Sure.
as soon as we get something to break loose there, we'll certainly bring that back to the board and discuss that.
Yeah, I suppose a follow-up then, if we, for whatever reason, weren't able to get the land, would that designated money be able to be used in Hallett's Nature Area for other kinds of improvements? I know that there are other things that are needed in that area. So how would we prioritize that in that case?
That money not necessarily would go to other areas of Hallett's. It would probably go to other areas of shade structures. So where you have the number one, if that's not accomplished, we'd probably go to the number 2 or 3 in that area. So how this actual chart works for us is that we basically, as a Parks Board, committed to doing shade structure and passive picnic area improvements in the year 2021. And so if our number one priority for some reason isn't able to happen, we would go to the number 2 and into the number 3 and into the number 4 based on the funding that's available.
Sure. All right.
Trying to balance it, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.
Pete, may I jump in with a question as well? This is Shannon.
Sure.
I had a question about the priority number 5, Mill Pond.
Yep.
My recollection from the last meeting is that that was significantly more expensive. So what's changed between now and the last meeting? And maybe it's just my memory and you can tell me that.
Yeah, our staff evaluated that structure, and I'll let Scott touch on it so that he can tell you what they see and what their goals are there.
So we went down there and we looked at that structure on, what is that, the southwest side. And the structure is really good. It's really sound. And all there is the cedar wrapped around the top just needs to be replaced. So we're actually just going to repaint that or repurpose that whole structure. That would save us a substantial amount of money. So that's the route we're going to go. We're just going to repaint the frame and repaint the roof and fix some steel on it. And I feel we feel it's well worth saving versus, and we can reinvest something else into the park at some other time down the road.
Thanks.
So,
I think that's terrific news.
yeah, it was. It was one of the guys actually brought it up. One of the park guys said, you know, that structure is worth saving. We just got a little TLC.
Yep. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, Joey.
All right, so in your packet is the October activity report. Just a couple things to highlight for you quickly is this is the first year we did active aging week with our department, and it was the first week of October. That week was, we lucked out. We had beautiful weather. It was about 70 degrees and sunny every day. Most of our activities were outside and COVID, they were all COVID friendly, but with that, most of them were outside. And we had really nice participation and had not only support from the community with the Mankato Clinic Foundation on helping us out and the Friends of the Library, but we had a lot of participants help out or participate and had a great time. So that's something you're gonna see around for years to come. We capped it off with our mini senior expo, which was much different than a large senior expo that we've done in the past. But really a good week. Participants loved it, and so you'll see that again. Other things to highlight on. This was another month where you saw a lot of a mix of virtual type of programming and in person. You're going to continue to see that from our department now for sure through the winter. You know, still looking and doing some really unique things to keep virtual is getting tough, especially as the school goes full distance learning. We're trying to be really mindful of not overdoing that because families are tired of dealing with that, but we also are finding ways to do things safely for the community. We're working with Community Ed on our winter brochure right now, and it's still up in the air if that's going to look exactly like it normally does at the beginning of January. Community Ed on one side is a little hesitant to spend the money to go that route, and we're going to be supportive of them and make a good decision on how we're going to get the word out on what's offered for these winter months coming up. So look for a lot of publications coming up here towards the end of December with our next round of programming. And we do have some cool holiday events coming up that are COVID friendly and safe, that aren't in-person large events, but we're going to bring the holidays to families that are registered, kind of like we did a 4th of July. We did for the 4th of July. So we have great participation so far, and then staff's pretty excited about how that event's going to look here, and had some great support from our service clubs, Lions being one of them, and then some other businesses, Good Sam's. So any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Joey. Pete, you want to talk to us about the restroom facilities at Community Spirit?
Sure. One of the things we have done during the budget process, as you guys are probably aware, is we were working with the school initially to look at restroom facilities out on the Community Spirit Park site. We got direction from our city council that funding was not going to be really towards the $200,000 mark, and that we needed to cut some funding from that. And so part of the concession stands and a little bit of the design review was trimmed so that we could get down closer to the $150,000 mark. Still is a great commitment to make this work. We are going to do some additional utility work on our end in order to make this happen. And so we expect to be below 150,000, but that's the target number we're going in with. Going forward here, our plan would be to work with our architect, Olson and Hobby, during the months of December and January to finalize the plans and specifications. We would put this out for bid in February. This is assuming that everything stays on a fairly decent level with COVID and everything else that's going on here. And then that we bid this project for spring and summer construction with the idea by the time that school goes back into session in the fall, you have two nice facilities out there at your park. One thing I should note out there at Community Spirit Park is Scott has done a really nice job of working with St. Peter High School staff on meeting the needs. The use out there was unreal this fall for the activities that they had and the activities they tried to accomplish going into the fall program. As you guys know, there wasn't going to be a fall football. We had kind of reserved ourselves to thinking this isn't all bad because we won't have to go out and maintain those 6 fields to the degree we had to. And then lo and behold, we did a 180 and we had 6 fields ready to go in a heartbeat out there. And it was just great effort on Scott and the parks crew to get that done. So a lot of nice things are happening out there. The future looks good as far as how we're building the turf up. Improvements are just going to really add and enhance that whole operation out there. So we're happy where that's going, and these 2 facilities will be a real nice addition to what we've got. Anything to add, Scott?
No, well, what Pete was saying about football, that actually worked out great because if they would have had football in the spring, I would have wrecked those fields from just how, with the frost coming out of it, and it would not have been good. So it was more of a blessing than anything, actually. So
that's all we have, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Could we get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second? All right. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next meeting is Monday, December 21st. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.